So welcome to Tech Tuesday's Library Edition. I'm going to be showing you some of the various wonderful things that you could do with research guides. And I wanted to start by showing you how to get to the research guides from the library homepage. Down at the bottom, you'll see it's in the corner there. If you click on that, the first thing that you'll see is there are different research guides that we have, starting with subject guides. So the one that we just published, is that going to be with the general guides or the subject guides? Library demo, I think.
Check into all guides.
Okay, so let me open that one up too. I want to show you the difference between the subject guides and the general guides. And then I've created one for this presentation. If I can find it.
All of these that we're seeing now been created by faculty?
No, librarians. Okay, so I don't see it in here under all guides. I literally just published it right before we walked over here, and I can really walk you through what we have without library demo. So does it do a keyword search? Mm-hmm.
You guys get to see the back door, which normally we don't show. You know, when they say email, they really mean it. There we go.
LibGuide demo. Okay.
Not sure why it didn't like demo, but. All right, there you go.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
So the one that I've created for this presentation, the homepage here, actually, since you were talking about students going abroad, I love the Tut Library online resources for before you leave campus. So I put that on the homepage of this just because it's interdisciplinary for the whole campus. Um, and somehow the images got a little squashed, but um, I have some sample guides that I can show you, but most home pages we can construct with anything that you think is the basic first thing that you want the students to see. I'm sort of gearing this for faculty, but we have done some guides that are more across campus for everyone, including staff, and even into the community. So on the right, I've put the research help desk information. We usually put a chat box on the front page. I put some videos here. We have Prezi, so I installed a Prezi that talks about understanding citations, which Shelley created. And before I show you some of the sample guides that I created, and these are individual pages, but I'll come back to that. I wanted to show you back to searching the research guides. Sorry, this screen is very small, so maybe that's not the page. I was just gonna go to the. Oh, I'm just gonna start from here. So what I started to say before we realized that I hadn't remembered the name of the guide is when you click on the research guides from the home page, you have subject guides, and we have a number of just subject guides that are not linked to a specific class. So there are, if you click through and look at them, let me just open up one. We have History Day on campus, so students come sometimes to learn research skills and stuff. And so this is a subject guide that they can actually access from home. They can't use all of the same resources that the students can, but we tried when we created this one to put a lot of open source information on it so that they can access it from home and learn a lot. And I'll show you some of the pages from this one when I show you the home page for this demonstration. But that's one example. So subject guides are different. We have students can, and I think this shows on, does this show on the home page when students are looking just for the research guides that are published for this block that teachers have said they can access? You'll notice that, for example, taxes is listed on here because faculty and staff may want to get information about their taxes. So all of the stuff that's relevant to this block is in here. And then the all course guides are alphabetical by course code, and these can be as minutely focused. And I like to show the history ones. Shelley, you're here. Not just because Shelley's here, but because there are a lot of really interesting topics. One that Shelley created recently was this one for history and for ethnic studies, Black people in the U.S. and Civil War. And it lists CC databases of interest for that specific course.
So that is a specific course we taught on our campus.
Yes.
So is it the faculty member who contacts you with like what
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when we are having the instruction in class, we'll create them on the but most often it's in person.
Yeah, I created some, actually, some history guides before Shelley came on with us, and one that I like to show. Well, actually, it's multidisciplinary. Is one called Jews in America, and I'll get students who are doing research, and so I can send them to this LibGuide, even though they may not be taking a history class, but it has so much information in it that has to do with that topic, and it links to some history classes like World War II. But if students are doing like a senior thesis and it's focused in, say, the Holocaust, so there's Holocaust resources in this LibGuide that they can access through this specific research guide, which narrows it down, the search down for them a lot. So, like I said, you can put as much information in there or as little information as the professor or instructor wants. But those are the subject guides or the course guides. And sometimes for when we have students who come on campus for History Day research, like we get students from Fountain Valley School that come regularly and some other schools, I'll show them course guides specific to the topic that they're doing a History Day project on. And then general guides are kind of fun because these are, again, kind of interdisciplinary. So there's advancement and alumni. One of the ones that I love, Diane Westerfield created, which is Birding Colorado Springs. And it has, different pages for birds common to Colorado Springs and lots of pictures. And I believe one of these pages even has where you can, yes, you can click on links to hear the bird calls and you can see what they look like. So it's pretty extensive, and this is what you can expect from librarians who are passionate about certain topics. And also it's kind of fun because we can make suggestions and find stuff that's a combination of, let me see, I got to get back to, so are we on edit? No, here we go. Okay. So what you can do is you or faculty can request any box, and these separate things are here on the page, or boxes, or any page to be inserted into a Canvas site as well. Or you can look at different guides and you can say, I want the front page of this guide and the boxes on this page. So that's one of the things about SpringShare, which is the platform that we use for creating the LibGuides. And I wanted to show some different pages because even the width of the boxes can be changed. So for this front page, because I wanted to have the visuals show up in the middle, although they don't very well, you can have the middle box be bigger than, or you can have two boxes side by side instead of three. So about primary sources, I've used that same format. I want to see if there's one that has a different format. Yeah, this one has, you'll see that we have atlases and cartographic resources on the left here, and we can insert any books from the catalog with or without visuals, which I think our students, and I know I am, very visually oriented, so I try to create stuff that has some visual recognition. But also, all of these, the online map websites and resources, are live links that they can click to go to different, and then cartography resources online, which like HathiTrust, which is open source. So there's a lot more than just what our library offers. For site sources, again, this is something that you can customize. We have basic information, use the cite feature. It shows you how to find it in EBSCO and JSTOR. It has a link where you can go directly to RefWorks. Librarians can come in and do a separate instruction session just on RefWorks if students, especially freshmen, don't know how to use it. OWL at Purdue is something that most professors recognize, and I like to emphasize that professors in graduate schools recognize it as well, so that you can use that, start using that here, and use the different citation formats that they provide. And there's a, let's see if I can get this to play, very basic, I'm trying to see where the little, if I click on it, okay, so then, so this is a Prezi that in a minute and a half shows the difference between popular and scholarly, and I like to show this. It usually has techno music in the background, but I think the sound is not hooked up, and I don't care for the techno music anyway, which I usually tell the students and they usually laugh. But I announce before I show it, this is a minute and a half and it's a Prezi and things are going to pop out at you, and then we're going to have a pop quiz. So they all pay attention. But the thing with showing a visual when you do instruction too is that they do just suddenly just focus on what's on the screen and pay closer attention. And I think it's a really good one. It's really colorful and it gives just really quick definitions and descriptions, and by the end, most of the students, especially a class full, can usually answer the pop quiz of, okay, what's the difference between popular and scholarly? And so it's things like this that, depending on what you're creating, if we're creating something for senior level class, probably they don't need to have this in a research guide, but certainly for the FYE classes, there are certain boxes that we'll check with the professor. And if they say, well, just put what you think would work for these students, this is one that I like to put. So that's an example of installing widgets. Again, on the left, we have books from the catalog, and you can also add worksheets, and this one shows PDFs as well as Word documents. So if there are certain documents that the professor wants to add, or anyone wants to add really, that would help the students or help the readers, we can put that in. So this is another example of a page that you can, and here we have Shelley's wonderful Prezi again. I don't know if it's going to actually show us the picture. But copyright information, how to cite images on campus for educational purposes. It gives you a, not extensive, but it will give you the brief information that you need. Some image databases that we subscribe to that have a little tiger claw to show that you have to be a student to access them. But also on the right, you'll see online portals and resources for images. So really anyone, people who are working on campus as staff, putting together a flyer or something, can use the research guides that we have with lots of information kind of focused on that. Multimedia is another one that I put on here as an example so that I could showcase our music online that we have. Streaming media databases, you can see from the little tiger paw that we have a lot of them that we pay for, that the students pay for. Films on demand, so if you knew where to look, you could go immediately to the research guide and find music, moving image archive from, I believe this is from the Smithsonian Internet Archive, and then again, freely available on the internet. We try to combine what resources we have with the open source resources. And the nice thing about the LibGuides too is that it really can narrow the focus for the students. And I remember because when Shelley first came on, she kept referring to them as LibGuides because library, LibGuides. But I had learned how to say LibGuides, and so I went online to the SpringShare platform to find out how they pronounced it, and they said we pronounce it LibGuides as in liberation. And I thought that was great because we're taking liberties. We can borrow from lots of other campuses. And some of the LibGuides that I was creating, I would write and ask permission and borrow. I mean, you don't have to invent the wheel. I wanted to know what other campuses were doing. So there's a resource page. So we can take liberty. We do get permission usually. So in the middle, I listed some reference resources, some of the reference books that students can still access in the library in the basement. Again, handouts you could put on this page. Finding journals, this will tell you really briefly. News databases. I try to, not all instructors like Google Scholar or Google, or if students know about Google but not, again, I'm thinking of the first year experience students. If they know about Google but don't know about Google Scholar, there are some qualities to Google Scholar that some librarians will share in instruction, and some won't. And Project Gutenberg is a really good thing because it provides access to electronic books that, in addition to the ones that it digitized books that we provide. So, and then using Google for keywords. So there's some strategies here on this page for resources, and again, you can populate it any way that you want. And then I like to include special collections too. This central image is from the World War I poster collection. It's really beautiful, and the posters are really amazing. It has information for contacting Jesse Randall, and it lists, yes, and you can access actually special collections from the library homepage as you can the music library. But it's kind of nice to also include pages that then feature specific things. Like if I were to go back to History Day, I could show you that there are a lot of things from special collections in that one, or in the history primary sources. So here we have about primary sources, which came from one of the history guides. So this here, more about primary sources, but that image comes from special collections. And then there's some keywords here for looking for primary sources online. So there's a lot of information, and it defines primary, secondary, and tertiary sources too. So sometimes even the older students forget these things because they're not working on stuff that requires primary sources, or they don't think it's that important. So, but back to the home page, I wanted to show, I did give you a peek at Diane Westerfield's Birding Colorado Springs. Let's see, this is one that I created for across campus, and you can see it's got a lot more pages than some of the others. But I just thought, if this is here and any student on campus who's questioning or wants information, then as long as people know where to send them, they can find the information on their own. So there's a lot of separate pages that deal with, and sexual assault actually comes up as a page on a few different guides, including gender and women's studies and stuff. It's a topic that people like to study, but it's also unfortunately an issue that we all have to deal with in adult and college life, whether it's seeing something in the news or dealing with a friend. So again, each of these pages can be, let me see, here's one that's relevant. So there's different information and websites, laws, um, that we put together. So this was another one that was created just to be used by people across. So see, the sexual assault one was on this page as well. But something that's general that the people say in health services can let students know about, or at least let the Lumen students know about. Um, and we have National Poetry Month coming up. Again, this is one that is really extensive because it can be used in a lot of English classes. The library usually hosts a few different activities on campus during National Poetry Month. We have visitors who come and speak, of course, but also we send out emails on behalf of Tut Library. Anyone who wants a poem in their email box on Mondays and Fridays. We have a poetry contest. So there's different information here. We have a haiku contest that Marianne in the library does. And can I access sound to show this one little quick video?
Or maybe something that I will also mention is that the publishing is completely general.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all the way up. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. So this is a former U.S. Poet Laureate poem.
The author is the first to go, followed obediently by the title, the plot, the heartbreaking conclusion, the entire novel, which suddenly becomes one you have never read, never even heard of. It is as if one by one the memories you used to harbor decided to retire to the southern hemisphere of the brain, to a little fishing village where there are no phones. Long ago, you kissed the names of the 9 muses goodbye, and you watched the quadratic equation pack its bag. And even now, as you memorize the order of the planets, something else is slipping away. A state flower, perhaps, the address of an uncle, the capital of Paraguay. Whatever it is you are struggling to remember, it is not poised on the tip of your tongue, not even lurking in some obscure corner of your spleen. It has floated away down a dark, mythological river whose name begins with an L, as far as you can recall, well on your own way to oblivion, where you will join those who have forgotten even how to swim and how to ride a bicycle. No wonder you rise in the middle of the night to look up the date of a famous battle in a book on war. No wonder the moon in the window seems to have drifted out of a love poem that you used to know by heart.
Thank you for your help with that. So at this point, I think maybe I'll entertain some questions. If you have any questions about specific things that you would like to use LibGuides for.
I imagine one of the things that we're going to agree with is like what do we want for students before, during, and after they study abroad, and it's intercultural skills, knowledge. You know. So I can imagine a LibGuide that is intercultural, and the subheadings under intercultural communication, intercultural competence, and that would be a clearinghouse for all the teachers. Like Heather Brown, she completed her master's degree in her master's is called international relations. So there's a lot of different, and there's tons of, there is research in this field. There are research. And I can imagine this is like a lovely little place.
So we could put together a column that has books from the library that they can check out, or articles,
online resources. Because in my mind, I was thinking that we would eventually someday, when we all have time, we would create this Canvas course that students would take. That's part of like their pre-departure orientation, but it could be a good kind as well.
The thing is to LibGuides is we don't have to send them to the final one. We can just access the content now. Which means that you would have to work through not putting anything out or research guide that should be sent out all that. So, except that if they access it, there would be some, say, articles and things from databases that they would just sign if they wanted to read the whole text. But, or, the book, it would show the book in the catalog and the status and everything else. They may not be able to access the ebook from the LibGuides. Well, that was part of what we did with the orientation of the semester courses, make sure that they were signed up so that we read everything.
That was a special thing because there were such many students. They weren't even in the system nowadays. So
Oh, I remember that.
yeah,
I remember that. Let me see if I can find, because I seem to remember as I was kind of putting this together with some examples, I seem to remember there being an international studies or something. It might have been a course guide. Yeah, I'm just wondering if it was a subject guide or a course guide or a general guide. So if I searched here and put in international, spelled correctly. So let's put international and see what comes up. Okay, so would I have to put in the first first word? Where? I don't see it here. Oh, there it is. So change it to what? Off campus. Okay. So is that with the hyphenated?
usually we hyphenate it, but that's not.
Okay. Don't see it. Okay, let me go back to research guides. So why am I not getting the... See if I can find it really quickly in the... Wonder if it would be a general guide. I know I saw something. So we have... Yeah. So I wonder if there's an ethnic studies. Blacks in the cinema. International and foreign governments. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Um, which is kind of interesting. I know there was one. So we have country sites, um, news and viewpoints. Subject areas.
What I find really helpful when I'm making research guides is, especially with that links and URLs and documents from things like person looking at research guide for, and I can be descriptive. And it's really quickly I can get content of these things for into that person perspective that I need to take on.
I know I was looking at one earlier too that if I'd known you were going to be here, I would have included it in the guides to look at. That also, maybe it was under careers, and that would be in the general guide. Yeah, working abroad, how to find jobs. So teaching abroad, culture guides. I knew I saw it somewhere. So here you have, I believe you can just click on any of these. There you go. So you click on the link and you find out more information. So there's a lot here in this, just in this page alone. All of these different are links that people can go to for specific information about specific countries. Again, something that I think that even though it's in the working abroad part of careers, could be put into a guide that's geared more for students who are going abroad, that they can use that general guide to find the information that they need. Or if there's a specific guide, Shelley went to Peru with an anthropology class, so we could find all the information needed so that they can do some research prior to going to Peru and find out about the customs and foods and art and whatever, information about the specific city they're going to travel to, and look at maps and things. So it's really kind of limitless, the things that we can do. Although I guess I shouldn't say that because it's making a lot of work for the librarians to do. And actually, you don't want to, some people prefer to have more of a bare bones kind of research guide with maybe just one top line, and just make sure that there are things on each page so it doesn't overwhelm the students, because I don't know, I like clicking around, especially if the research guide is already focused on what it is I'm interested in. I don't think that we're doing too much work for the students, because they still, even if we've made a kind of finite collection for them, they still have plenty they can find within there, and they have to do the reading and the research and the synthesizing of all the information that they found. So that's my justification. But there's library resources, government resources, internships. So this is a handy guide that I don't know if people know about it and use it, but if more staff and faculty knew about it, then they could just direct the students. And certainly we in the library do that when people come and ask us something. Did you know there was a research guide that you could use? No, I didn't know. So that's always fun. So, and graduate school. Here we go. The grants database. So, any other questions that you have? I didn't open up the internship one. I think that's such a wonderful feature of this campus.